Okay, this is Ms. Whitaker, and this is a lesson for pre-AP today. We are starting percents, and we're going to start out by estimating with percents. We've been talking about in the past couple of years about converting back and forth, fraction, decimal, percent, so you should know how to convert back and forth. We're going to use that knowledge to be able to estimate here. Because a lot of times we go to the store, we're not going to sit down with some paper or even get out our calculators and do actual math. We're going to do this in our head. We're going to estimate, so we need to develop that skill. So let's look at your notes that we handed out today in class. This is 6-2 in your textbook, and feel free to look at the online textbook and take a look at the videos and the examples shown there. So we've got, we're going to find a percent of a number, but remember we are just estimating, so let's keep that in mind. So what we're going to do is we look at this example that 38% is approximately 40%. 40% is also written as 40 hundredths, which reduces to 2/5. So I can really look for 2/5 of this number. However, I can change that number to make it a little bit easy. So let's move on down here. This 470 could also, well, it's really close to 500. So what we're looking at here is our bottom line here. We're looking for 2/5 of 500. That's a multiply problem. Now to find this out, I could take the 500 and divide by 5 and then multiply by 2 after I get that answer. And I'll end up with 200 as my estimate. Or I could do the 500 times 2 and then divide by 5. I'm still going to get the same answer. So it's either way. Divide by 5 times 2 or times 2 divide by 5. Either order, you're going to get the same answer. All right, so again, we're talking about estimates. Let's move on down to the first example shown here. Let's look at 32%. Let's round to a percent that's got it says easy fractional equivalent. 32% is close, really close to 33⅓%, which is 1/3. So that's going to be our fraction that we're going to use to estimate. And then, let's see, we want to make the 872, round that to something that we could find 1/3 of easily. That 872 I could round to 900 quite easily. It's not too far away. So really the bottom line is I'm looking for 1/3 of 900. So that's basically 900 divided by 3. So that's 300. So 32% of 872 is about, that's your key word, about 300. Make sure you're doing these in your head. You want to round 2 percentages and 2 numbers that you can easily work out in your head. All right, let's look at number 2. 78% of 495, but I want to estimate to make this easy. So I'm going to make 78%, it's close to 80%, and then we'll convert that to a fraction. 80 over 100 is 4/5, so I'm going to use the 4/5 fraction. And then 495, let's make that 500. That's really close. So what we're really doing here is finding 4/5 of 500. So you could do 500 divided by 5 times 4, or you could do 500 times 4 and then divide by 5. You're going to end up with 400. So your bottom line is 78% of 495 is about 400. All right, let's look at number 3. 73% of 1175. Let's change that 73% to something that's easy, like 75%, which is 3/4. And let's change that 1175 to something that would be divisible with that 3/4. So let's make that 1200. And then we're going to, so bottom line again, 3/4 of 1200. Now I could multiply by 3 and divide by 4, or I could divide by 4, multiply by 3, or multiply by 3 and divide by 4. So that ends up 300 times 3 is about 900. So 73% of 1175 is about 900. So I hope that as we're doing these examples, hopefully you're kind of getting the hang of what we're doing when we're estimating. Let's move on to the next page. Let's see. Let's look at finding what percent one number is of another. Now, instead of finding a percent of something, we want to find out what the percent is. And this may go back to what you learned last year with that proportion that we learned about a percent over 100 equals is over of or part of the whole. So we are looking at that proportion right here. Let's look at the example that they show first here. We have about what percent of 82 is 39. So we're going to round both of these numbers to numbers that are compatible with each other. Remember that compatible numbers are numbers that work well together. So we're looking at the is the top number, and the 80 is going to be the of, that is our bottom number. So we end up having 40 over 80 once we round those numbers to numbers that are nearby, but they're compatible with each other. So that reduces to 1/2, and then we know that 1/2 is 50%. So 39 is about 50% of 82. It's about half. All right, let's take a look at these examples that you're given on your notes. Number 4, about what percent of 98 is 27? Let's go ahead and put our is over of, our 27 over 98, but we're going to round those numbers. Let's make, let's do about 98, we'll make 100. And then we'll make 27 25. That makes it pretty easy. We've got 25 over 100. Reduce the fraction and convert to a percent. So 25 hundredths will reduce to 1/4, and I know that's 25%. So 27 is about 25% of 98. Moving on, number 5, about what percent of 19 is 6? So let's change these numbers. Maybe 19 moves to 20, 6 moves to 5. And then we will, let's do 5 over 20. That reduces to 1/4. That's also 25%. So 6 is about 25% of 19. All right, number 6, about what percent of 51 is 89? Now please notice this time that our part is actually larger than our whole. Just make sure you have the is 89 over 51. Make sure you have that straight. Let's change the 51 to 50 and the 89 to 90. So that would give us 90 over 50, which reduces to 9/5, which is 1 4/5. So that's 1.8, right? And that changes to 180%, which is our answer. Make sure that makes sense to you. 89 is about 180% of 51. 100% of 51 would be 51. So if we're going up to 89, we know we're going to be bigger than 100%. So keep thinking about the common percentages, like 10%, maybe 20% is pretty common, 25%, 33 1/3%, 50%, maybe 75%. Oh, don't forget the 66 2/3%, and I'll show you why here in just a minute. 10% is 1/10, 20% is 1/5, then we have 1/4, this is 1/3, that's 1/2, that's 3/4, and that's 2/3. So if you've got those percentages, those common percentages that go with those common fractions, it makes it real easy to do in your head. Much better than the numbers that they originally give you. So give it a try on the homework at 6-2 practice, and let me know if you have any problems.